Type Fitness Solutions. Now today I want to talk to you about cortisol, because a lot of people are throwing this word around as everyone seems to understand what cortisol is, and it's the causer of belly fat, and they're throwing these words out, hormones, and really sort of not understanding what they're really talking about. So I just want to clear up a few things and also make sure that you guys are getting the right information about understanding what's actually going on. So if you know, cortisol is related to, yes, having exposed to belly fat. Now what we're going to talk about here is long-term exposure to cortisol, which is normally what happens. Now let's look at the cortisol role in the body. Now cortisol is our fight or flight hormone. Cortisol, when we're under a sort of attack or a stressful situation, cortisol will be pumped out, which is a low-grade adrenaline, okay, which will actually cause a blood sugar increase. So we'll pump sugar into our blood to give us the energy to either run away or handle or fight the stressful situation, all right? So the thing is we're under stress constantly. Our stress today is computers, cars, driving, work, family, all right? Our stress is not really a vicious threat, it's more of an emotional threat, okay? So when we're looking at stresses here, it's normally not the fact the body does handle stress very well, it's normally long-term exposure to stress that affects us. Now this comes down to basically a whole bunch of stuff. It's never just one thing. It could be food stresses, sleep stresses, relationship stresses, work stresses, food stresses because you're not eating right, inflammation stresses, right? So all these bundled up together is causing a cortisol reaction in your body, right? So when this happens, you ramp blood sugar up, and that's how you can actually sort of look at type 2 diabetes, so stress-induced type 2 diabetes, because cortisol long-term exposure can create metabolic syndrome. Now, when we're talking about cortisol, people say, oh, I'm holding belly fat, and when you're using biosignature measures, people will take your belly fat and say, oh, you're high in cortisol, right? Okay, and well, it's probably actually the opposite case. Normally when you've been long-term exposure to cortisol, your cortisol levels is actually a drink to your adrenal glands. So what actually you get is you get an adrenal dump over long-term exposure to it. So what that actually causes your adrenal glands to dump and shut down, which actually affects your thyroid axis, so the adrenal thyroid axis, right, which slows down your thyroid production. Then all of a sudden you start putting all this weight around the midsection, right, getting really sort of fat and thick and hard to shift the belly fat. You don't understand why. Someone says you're high in cortisol, right? So you're trying to actually dampen this cortisol through cortisol modulators, which are on the market now, which people seem to be dumping to try and get rid of this belly fat. But when you look at long-term exposure to cortisol, it's actually the opposite. The adrenal dump causes the cortisol production to be non-existent, okay? So cortisol is actually your friend and your foe. Cortisol is actually what wakes you up in the morning. Cortisol is what gives you the energy under a stressful situation. But if you've been long-term exposed to that, because you're not sleeping and recovering, you get the adrenal dump, which means you stop actually making cortisol to begin with. So in that section, you're holding more belly fat is because you're not actually producing enough cortisol. So by taking cortisol modulators, you're actually doing the opposite, and you're actually making yourself worse. Okay, so when people are throwing out these words and throwing out smart words like hormones and cortisol, and they sound like they were actually talking about, they could be actually doing the wrong thing by you by telling you you need to have less cortisol when you actually need to support the adrenal glands and the thyroid production to help you start making cortisol more. So number one signs of this is like low morning energy, you're mentally fatigued, physically fatigued, right? It's not the fact that you're making too much cortisol, it could be the fact that you're not making enough, okay? So long-term exposure to cortisol production is normally what causes the belly fat, all right? You don't get belly fat overnight, you don't get adrenal dysfunction overnight, and you don't expose yourself to stress just one night or one day. It's normally a long-term thing. So you really have to sort of break it down and step back and really evaluate sort of what's been going on in lifestyle, food stresses, relationship stresses, and really understand what's actually going on with the dysfunction of your body, and whether you're actually really, which you're probably not producing too much cortisol, it's probably the fact that you're not producing enough. So I just want you to understand that sometimes taking supplements that you think are right are actually doing and making you worse. And I'm finding because a lot of people I work with are the people that have been, I'm almost the third husband, they've had two shitty trainers before them that have actually messed them up. And then they have to come to me, so I'm the third one that actually has to fix them all, right? So these are the sorts of population that I actually work with, fixing up other people's mistakes, right? So I'm trying to get the word out there, guys. Do the things right the first time. I fix a lot of people that have been damaged by fad diets and shake diets and things like that mess their metabolism up, and it's a slow road, and it can be a little bit more expensive road because you've actually got to invest the time right? To build these things back up. And it's hard because you're mentally and you're physically fatigued because you've done all the wrong things before in the past, all right? So guys, I really hope you take this on board. Remember, make sure you trust in the information that you're getting out there. Don't just read something and believe it, okay? Make sure that you're getting quality advice and make sure that you're getting someone that actually knows what they're talking about. So peace, fit, healthy, happy, and strong out there, guys. And